What's up, everybody? Josh and Joe here from Ramrod's Archery. We are here for Ramrod's Reacts with special guest Steve Wijler, who is going to be breaking down one of his Shanghai matches for us live and giving us some behind-the-scenes info on what went down there.
And how about some background information here too, because Shanghai has been a staple on the World Cup circuit for 15 years almost. And if I remember correctly, this was where you won your first World Cup, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so you've obviously been here a lot of times besides just that one experience, but is that something that you think about or that plays into your experience here returning to the finals venue?
No, not at all. This finals venue also was way different than the one that I've won in the past. At this finals field, we are shooting besides a river, and the previous finals field was shooting over a little lake. So the conditions were a little bit different over there. This felt a bit more like an open field. There was a lot of water, and it was like for hundreds and hundreds of meters, it just was all clear instead of having trees and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do love the scenery that World Archery is able to pick out for some of these finals venues, but it definitely opens it up to some wind when you start trying to pair it with water and kind of scenic venues. When I was in the finals match a long time ago, I think we did do it on this same river, but it was probably reverse directions, and I don't know about the location, but I remember that was a thing that year, was just a lot of, one whole side of this venue was open to water and probably wind rather than being a little more contained and less windy.
Yeah, as you can see here on the right, it's completely open, and on the left there are all the buildings and shops and everything.
Yeah. How about your matches leading up to this? You're again presumably at the regular venue. I don't know if there's a stadium. They shoot all the ranking rounds and
Yeah, there's
elimination rounds going into this. So how did that go for you?
Well, we obviously started with a qualification round, and that was actually one of my worst experiences ever on shooting a qualification round with the rain. I don't think I've ever shot in so much rain as I did in Shanghai. That was a really, really big task to put up and to at least be a little bit motivated in. But doing that, my shots felt pretty good, but I feel like all my equipment got so wet, and even my finger tap, just like the leather almost expanded double. So I had no feeling at all, and I was just shooting and feeling that I did some good shots, but they weren't landing where I thought it would be. And directly the day after that, we started with team matches and mixed team. So it was kind of tricky to get the equipment back into the normal groove. So I went to the practice field. I shot a bunch of arrows to get my finger tap at least feeling the way I wanted it. And that was all just before going into the matches. So there was a lot of work going into eventually shooting some matches.
Did you end up having to change out that finger tab leather, or were you able to use that same leather all the way through the whole event?
I have been using the same leather all the way through.
Okay.
Because my spare tab just wasn't up to running as it should be.
Okay.
So that's kind of my own fault, but I'm like a person that just wants to have one bow and one tap and do not play around with everything.
That's the one. Don't change it.
Capable of shooting with all the bows that I have, but it gets me into doubt all the time. So I just try to have one really good bow and one bow that is just always a little bit less, so I don't doubt about it.
Sure. Okay.
So you had this ranking round and this downpour on like a Tuesday or Wednesday was probably one of the first days of the tournament.
Wednesday.
Okay. And then, so going into Thursday, was that team rounds or was that elimination rounds?
It was team rounds Thursday morning, and on Friday morning we had mixed teams, and Friday afternoon we had individual rounds.
So you had a couple days to kind of keep shooting, keep getting the feel back in some of your soaked equipment. And I presume that as the week went on, it probably got more back to normal, and then you guys were feeling, okay, now we're back in a normal tournament here.
Yeah, exactly. Also because of the weather, like on the dry days, it was 30 degrees Celsius. But on the wet day, it was, I believe, 10 degrees Celsius. So there was a lot of difference in temperature. But at least when the sun was out, it was really hot. So that helped a lot with getting the equipment dry.
Yeah, that's a big swing. I would have thought it'd be warm the whole time, but that sounds pretty cold.
Yeah, I was wearing 2 thermals, and it was still really cold.
Yeah. One thing that I think affects some of these worse weather tournaments that doesn't always get played out is or talked about is like these kind of confusion sometimes of whether they're going to continue with a tournament or not, depending on how bad the weather gets.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys had any confusion about like, is this storm or wind? I don't know how windy it was either, but is that bad enough to maybe call a pause or maybe call a postponement of something? Or you guys are obviously having to be flexible at the time of just, if they say we got to shoot, like I'm just going to do the best I can, but maybe this will also stop.
Well, for me, there never is something like doubt in the thing that we have to shoot. I've been shooting internationally for a lot of years now, and it only happened to me once that they stopped the competition for half an hour because there was a lot of thunder. But the rest, I've always had to shoot, and there was like no time at all that there was any doubt that they would not continue. So as long as there's just normal rain or wind or whatever, I always presume that we're just gonna shoot and we just have to deal with it.
And how sure were you guys the day of that of the ranking round that weather was going to be like that, or was it kind of just it just depends on whether it hits us or misses us?
Now we knew it 100% sure. Yeah, the week leading up to that, it was already expected on the weather app that we had, and going into the night from Tuesday to Wednesday, it started raining, and we knew it would not stop until Wednesday night.
Okay, so at least there's some certainty there.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain. Yeah.
So going farther into the tournament, talking about your individual elimination matches days, can you walk us through how you were feeling, how your matches went? Obviously, you made it through, which is always good, but there's a lot of things that happen over a series of probably 4 or 5 matches that I'm sure people would be interested to kind of hear how those went down.
Yeah, sure. Well, after this indoor season, I've been feeling pretty confident. My shooting has been good. My equipment has been really good. So I have a lot of confidence going into competitions. But definitely outdoors, I always feel that it's just a little bit more of a gamble than it feels like it is indoors. So you always have just a little bit of self-doubt unless you make it into a medal match. At least that's how it works for me. So after the qualification round, I was seeded 24th, I believe, which is not the best place to start, but yeah, it's what it is. And definitely with bad weather, you can always get some strange matches, and it always just depends a little bit on the day. So looking at the bracket, I believe I had Kim Woo-jin, Kim Ye-jok, Ojinyak, Brady Allison, and Mette Gazos, just to name a few.
Easy bracket.
So, yeah, that was like a big task coming up. But I could start with somebody who was lower seeded, an Australian guy who was really nice, and we started shooting matches, and we were splitting the set like almost every end, which was kind of fun at the beginning, but also kind of annoying because you just want to like get the points, get it done. But he was just a nice guy, and we talked about shooting and archery, and it even eventually came down to a shoot-off. So like starting your day off with a shoot-off never really feels good, but it's a big relief if you get the win, which I was capable to do. So I shot a better 9 than my opponent, and I walked into the next match, which was directly against a teammate of me. Senna is just a super talented guy who has been shooting really good. And definitely when he's shooting against somebody he knows, he shoots extremely well, which he can also do against anybody else. But you feel that that's the vibe is just a little bit more relaxed. And at the time, we were just like kind of hanging out and just relaxing, but also shooting like for a World Cup. Which was kind of a strange vibe, but also I just really enjoyed it because he's just a friend of mine and we can talk about anything. I believe we even talked about his car and my motorcycle and whatever during a match like that at a World Cup, which is really nice to do. And for me, that really opened up my spirit for the rest of the day. So I won that match and I felt really open. I was really interacting with all the people around me and with my coaches and with my teammates. And I was really feeling kind of at home, So
Yeah.
that was a really nice feeling. So after that match, I shot against.
And just to jump in real quick too, I think that's something that it's easy for us and for any other archery fan to really look at how people are people winning matches, are they getting through, are they getting to medals and winning medals? But every archer, especially the ones at elite level, they've got a lot of people they got to shoot against to even have that chance. And like, especially when you were mentioning having to basically start off the entire World Cup and match with a guy who's shooting really well and pushes you to a shoot off, like that's just something that I think most archers probably don't think is as common as it is for elite archers to just have to normalize and be ready for and have the mental discipline, I think, to keep focused on, whether it's the first match or the gold medal match, of being able to stay in the right mindset and be disciplined and determined that you're going to prevail and execute your shot the way you want.
Yeah, I feel like these days the qualification round doesn't really matter anymore. Like I've been at first seed and I've been almost at the lowest, and also like at the end you're gonna shoot a match against somebody who also really wants to win, and you still have to bring your A game. So I've been into like the first match of a World Cup where shooting 29s just wasn't enough against somebody who was lower seeded than me. So you never know, and that's something that for me was really hard to accept. But it's also good for our sport. So this way you just do not get icons in the sport. Of course, there are people that win more than others, but at the end, I believe that definitely after a qualification round, I always say that probably the top 32, somebody of those guys is going to win it. So that's something that we always keep in the back of our minds. And the guy that I shot against, he just did a really good job, and he was just relaxed and enjoying his shooting. So that was also really nice to see.
Yeah. And I was going to add too, just real quick, that shooting against a teammate is another one of those things that you travel halfway around the world. You're ready to face anybody from another country, but sometimes the brackets just line up, and there's pros and cons, right? I've definitely seen maybe the U.S. team or other teams try to stagger and not have their own archers match together, but then the trade-off is they could all lose. At least if one archer is shooting against another of the team, for sure one loses, one makes it farther. But yeah, it's a weird feeling to do all that preparation, travel so far, and then there's only 3 other teammates you have in your gender and division. So to be matched up at some point and not, I guess you understand it if it's like really late, like once you get to the top 8, like if people are crushing it and still making it farther, like you're going to meet up eventually. But yeah, early matches, it's unfortunate, but it's also statistically, just as likely as anybody else. So even if it feels like 1 or 2 tournaments you end up doing that, realistically, you could also go 2 years without ever facing a teammate at a World Cup.
Yeah, it's really strange how that works. Like in previous years, I always had a big trouble with shooting against a teammate. Definitely in the days where our team was more competitive instead of friendly. These days we are competitive as a team, but we just do not want to kill each other. Like that's kind of how it felt back in the days. So these days, for me at least, it doesn't really matter if I have to shoot against a teammate. Of course, it's unfortunate when somebody loses, and of course, I would love to see them win as well. But there's always something in a sportsman or in a sportswoman that wants to win just a little bit more than a teammate. So that's that. I think that's also just the healthy part of being teammates and shooting against each other.
And to add to this too, because I think Josh and Maddie and I have talked about this a lot, because we were all at this training center together and had to shoot against each other a lot. And I feel like more so than maybe the previous generation of athletes who were out there, we did try to recognize that we're in a little bit of an impossible position. These are the people who we're most likely to develop long-term friendships with and really value our time training and shooting and competing and traveling together. But if you look at that as a only from a competitive lens, and you're always trying to angle from getting one up on somebody and not being friendly and not talking and not having any positive interactions and vibes, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot and not necessarily getting any farther than you would have otherwise. So it just felt like it was a real challenge to recognize that there's only so many spots, there's only so many chances to win, but you know, you gotta live life and enjoy what you're doing, and it's hard to do that if you can't smile and chat with a competitor when you're having a match.
For me, at least, one of the biggest breakthroughs that I've made personally was that at least the last few years, I do not identify myself with archery anymore. Like back in the days, I was feeling good when I was shooting good, and I was feeling shit when I was shooting bad. Like just as simple as that. And these days, I just try to be a nice human, and I just try to relax with everybody just the way I act normally. And then there's archery, and of course there's a big part of my life, and of course I always want to win when I'm going to a World Cup or to a competition or whatsoever. But like if I lose or if I win, for me that just doesn't swing my moods that much anymore. It's just all good, and I can go home back to my girlfriend and my friends, and life can still be good if you are not that good at archery, you know. So I also try to implement that at our team, and I believe that most of the people really gets it. So that also helps a lot with how everybody interacts with each other and how the vibe is in general.
Nice. That sounds really healthy. And to add to that too, or to ask for some maybe more specific advice, how would you advise a younger archer who maybe was like you, 5 years ago, maybe, that was more ups and downs and intensity a little bit with how their archery or how their shooting was going? What kind of wisdom would you want to give them?
Well, to start off, I just would say to everybody just to enjoy archery. Just like everybody started it with a reason. Like everybody just really enjoyed shooting arrows and enjoyed the atmosphere of being at competitions and just liking everything what is around. And some people just get at a level that they win more than others. And I feel like definitely with coaches and people around, it's mostly it's the surroundings. They just try to influence the archers just to react a little bit different and to train more and to like cancel themselves from little parties or whatever, just to really get all out of the archer instead of just letting the person be a person and enjoy life and doing archery in that life.
Yeah, it's hard to trust sometimes, probably whether you're a coach or an athlete, that if you don't do 110% of your life and your focus and taking away all this other extra stuff that maybe is a little bit risky or maybe is a little bit distracting, it's hard to be convinced that that is actually the healthiest, best path for your progress, rather than I should sacrifice more, I should work harder, I should give up more, and only think about this, and I should be upset when I don't do well because that communicates that I have high expectations, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I think that's really powerful for younger archers. And it sounds like you guys are doing a good job at your training center or with your group of training partners to create that culture and recognize that it's a long journey, and we all will enjoy this more and probably do much better if we are enjoying it and enjoying spending time with each other.
Yeah, definitely. And also with the disappointment part. The past few years, I have implemented myself with a breakdown, at least an equipment breakdown period of time that I can be just a little bit angry. So if I come out of a competition, which I haven't won, I give myself the time to like be a little bit upset about it and to kind of grieve. Just for me, it always feels just a little bit like grief about it. And like after I zip my case and the equipment is in the case, then I just have to get over it and just like go back to normal life instead of hanging in that pattern of being upset.
Yeah. Well, that's, again, a lot of good advice. So I appreciate that background because that is a huge part of what goes into these performances. And like you were kind of saying, doing well indoors this year, starting to do very well outdoors. I connect that in a way as a foundation that allows that to happen. Whereas sometimes people just see the ebb and flow of an archer's season and think, oh, well, they're just back or they're just off a little bit. Where in reality, there could be some major things that are getting the archer the chance to get in more good situations, more medal matches, and more wins.
Yeah, I believe so as well.
All right, so moving on, since we got a lot of background. So you took us through the first two matches. How about match number 3?
Match number 3 was against Mette. I've shot against Mette in Lilleshall as well this year, so that was 2 competitions back. And at that competition, it felt exactly the same as it was in this competition. I do really like Mette. He's just a really nice guy. And always when we were shooting against each other, the matches are at an extremely high level. So this time I was able to start off with 3 30s in a row, which only put me up until, I believe, 5-1 up. So he also shot a 30 on his last round. So we split it the set, and I was 5-1 up. Like, I was really happy that I shot 3 30s in a row, and I was like kind of pumped about it. So I just messed up a little bit in my head, and I shot an 8 to start off with in the second round. And he shot a 29, and I shot a 28 or something like that. So he got the 4th set. So we had to go into another set, so it was 5-3 up for me. But it was kind of like, it was not windy that day. It was almost wind still. But some arrows, there was just a little bit wind that we really need to take care of. If I remember correctly, that I saw the flags in a certain way and I reacted on it. And I believe that really won me the match. So I was able to keep my arrows into the 10. I believe that I shot a 29 on the last round, or a 28, at least good enough to win it. And it was kind of a tricky round. So that really helped me winning that set. But the nice thing about Mette is that we can always chat about it after, and at least for me, there are no hard feelings if somebody wins or loses, because that's just the sport.
Yeah, that's intense to go 3 30s and then
and you didn't even win the match yet.
The match is not over.
Yeah, but that's always against Mette. Also in Lilleshall, we had to shoot 29s, 29s or 30s just to get a set point.
Yeah, that's exciting.
That's good. The level's high.
Yeah, that was good fun. So after that, I was kind of pumped to make it into the top 8. And I had to match up against Brady. Brady is somebody who was around the scene for a very long time, and we chat a lot because we see each other very often. So we just, like, for me at least, I just try to have a good time. So we are talking about everything and anything. He was even telling me about his flights that he had to go back home, and it was kind of difficult to make it, so he had to book a flight on Sunday. But if he made it into the final, he had to rebook it and I believe leave on Wednesday or something like that. So kind of a strange flight, but it was the only possibility. So we were talking about that and also shooting at the time, as that goes. But the same as goes for Matt. The matches against Brady are always at a really high level. And it was kind of strange. I remember that the first end that we shot, the wind just completely switched to the other side. So I was like, my mind was completely at the right space at the time. So I saw that and I just was like, yeah, I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. So I aimed off on the other side that I've been doing the rest of the day. And my first arrow landed into the X. And I was like, yeah, that was a good goal. So I shot the other two just exactly the same. And I shot a 30 to start off. So again, I started with a 30. And that really gave me a lot of confidence going into the next sets, at least. So I believe we split one set 29 apiece, then another one 29 apiece. So I was 4-2 up. Then it came into my mind that I could make it into the medal matches, as it goes. So I shot an 8, what didn't help. But after that, I was like, I'm just going to get it. I just have to do it, I shot the arrows just as good and as fast as I could because the wind was kind of changing. And again, shot a 29, which was enough to make it into the final.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a really nice feeling.
Nice. Yeah. So like you were saying, those first couple matches, a little interesting, different, had a shoot off, shot against a teammate, getting warmed up, but then really started to get on in the third match, doing really well also in the fourth match. And again, little distractions here and there, but overall you're shooting well enough and giving yourself a chance to come back and reset and still close out these matches. And yeah, like you said, it's still, even at however many years you've been shooting, it's still exciting to start to get close to a medal match and to know that you still have a lot of good archers that are still in it and that you might have to get through to get there. But yeah, that's cool. And again, I think that most people don't get that kind of breakdown or understanding about what's going through an archer's head through all the various matches. So I think it's important for people to recognize that, we're all humans and we all try to be as good as we can. And we're, obviously archers at this level are very elite and very skilled and very knowledgeable about what they're doing, but it's not just automatic. It's not just easy for everybody to just keep focused the same all the time, even as the situations change.
No, definitely for me, the first matches of a day are always way more difficult than the last few. I always have a little bit trouble starting because I just really do not want to lose at an early stage, which has caused me in the past because I was thinking about that. It kind of always happened. I kind of let go of that, at least at that feeling for as much as I physically can. And now I just try to enjoy it a little bit more. And I do really like archery, and I'm also kind of good at it, so that also helps. So for me, it's more about enjoying the day and try to see how much I can get out of it.
Nice. All right, so those are the 4 matches, and that took you to the semifinals, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So again, tons of background. We're 40 minutes in here or so, but
this is a podcast now. 3-parter.
Sure. All right, but yeah, now is there any history that you feel that is unique about you and Ojin Hyek or you and Team Korea? Does that play into anything leading up into this particular match?
There is something that I kind of noticed, that a lot of people, when they have to shoot against a Korean, they just kind of freeze because they're always like, I just can't win from a Korean. And for me, people are just people and a person is a person. So I do not really care where somebody comes from or like what gender that they are. For me, it's all the same. So if I have to shoot against, like, I don't know, a German people or somebody from the US or a Korean, it all kind of feels the same. So for me, there's no difference. I just still try to do my best and try to like win as much sets as I can, and if I get faster to 6 set points, I will win the match. So I kind of really simplify it.
Yeah, and obviously Ojin Hyek is the 2012 gold medalist. We've seen him at a lot of world championships and World Cups. It's interesting for me. Just putting myself in the dynamics of the Korean team. He's got to always feel a little bit second to Kim Woo-jin in some ways. Kim Woo-jin being the world record holder, 3 world championship wins, I think. Even though he has the gold medal and Kim Woo-jin doesn't. But Ojin Hyek strikes me as maybe I heard an interview or something one time that he just seems to really enjoy shooting archery, and even through the ups and downs in his career, it seems like he's still pretty steady overall. He has a little bit unique release and technique and all that, but still very solid. And again, he's been a staple for 15 years probably on the Korean team, on and off, but mostly on. So yeah, I mean, there's part of it that could be unique to the Korea as a team or as almost a brand within archery, but also Ojin Hyek, I think, is pretty unique among the Korean team.
Yeah, I believe that for as long as that I've been on the team, Ojin Hyek only has been 1 year off. So for me, I've been on the team for about 7 years now. So in 7 years, he only has been 1 year off, which in Korea just says a lot.
Yeah, because also too, I feel like they focus for so long on younger archers, but I do feel like their older archers are still doing very well, which I think speaks to, I don't know, maybe some work-life balance, maybe some better, I don't know, mental training or longevity or something that helps people stay at their best for a longer period of time.
I believe that it has something to do with drive. A lot of young people that get it to an Olympic training center, they just go. They just go in 100%, maybe 110 every day. But like at a certain level or at a certain age at least, everything slows a bit down. You just try to focus on different aspects of life, and you value your personal life just a little bit more than your career. And as far as for me, that just helped a lot with archery. Just taking the focus off just a little bit, and still enjoying it and still being like on the top of your game, but having your personal life completely sorted out, for me, just like did the trick.
Nice. Excellent. All right. So this is leading into now the semifinal match between you and Ojin Hyek. Ranking round, but they both made it here. And yeah, so Steve, you mentioned it was a bit windy. You got kind of a headwind, it looks like.
We have a side wind from the right going into the field, so kind of headwind, but mostly from the right.
Okay. And so, how are you feeling as you're about to kick off here?
For me, this was a moment that I was feeling pretty relaxed. I've been shooting on the practice field. That was going really well. But at the practice field, there was no indication of wind or whatsoever. There were no flags. There was nothing. So I was just aiming everything, just aiming on the gold and doing what I do best, which worked out for me. I was shooting good groups. So coming into the finals field, I was feeling pretty confident. But at this stage, I'm just looking at the flags. And looking just to see what's going on. I'm also just kind of having in my mind to see what Ojin Hyek is doing. And you can see he just starts off with a 10. So for me, that was like an indication of I do not have to aim off.
Okay.
That's also why I just immediately moved my sight after the first arrow, because I just thought I could just aim on. Eventually, during the day, the flags just messed me up a little bit. Like for me, I always like to start at a practice field the same way as I should at a competition field, so I can just like get some reference points. But at least here, shooting some tens that just kind of help, and that also helps with settling the nerves.
Yeah, so you guys, and it's a right to left wind, you said?
Yeah, right to left indeed.
Okay. So so he gets a first 10, but then leaks him out a little bit left. And 28 is good enough for 2-0. Okay.
Yeah, for the first set. This is always a pretty interesting stage that you can talk with your coach about the conditions. You can talk about how you're feeling, or at least how your shots are feeling. I remember from the past that sometimes shooting felt pretty good, but my coach was saying different, that she just saw something that I did different than I usually do.
Mm-hmm.
So a period in between the sets always helps to connect with your coach, who can just see a little bit more that you can sometimes feel because of the nerves.
Sure. And normally when you're on these matches on the regular field, you have to walk down and pull arrows and score. So now you have that downtime while everybody else is scoring and pulling to spend time just with that coach.
Yeah, the fun thing is that just on the left where I was standing, my whole team was sitting there. So I was also just interacting a little bit with them.
Nice.
Just to take off the sharp edges.
Yeah. All right, so you're up 2-0. Ojinhek is still shooting first. And you feel like you've kind of dialed in the wind a bit by this point?
Yeah, I felt pretty confident. But I remember going into the second set that I was just like being more aware of the wind and trying to do something with it. So I just saw my face over there, and I remember doing that. I saw the flags, so I aimed off right 9, and I shot a right 9, and I was like, dude, come on.
So, yeah, he's drifting a little right, too.
Yeah, which is kind of funny. That was just a bad shot, as you can see. For me, that's also like a bit of a coping mechanism, just to smile with it and just try to relax a little bit instead of being frustrated about shooting 1-8.
Yeah, just being able to laugh off mistakes makes it a lot easier, because then you kind of prevent that negative spiral of frustration turning into replicating that bad shot.
Yeah, because if you shoot a shot like that at a training, you will also laugh about it instead of being frustrated, right? Because that just sometimes happens. Sometimes you just try to like force them off, do it too fast, or just pull too much or push too much. And sometimes you just shoot some 8s. And I always try to go with it the same way as I would do on a training base.
I feel like, too, there's that element of sometimes some of our mistakes are caused by being too intense or too much tension, and that kind of, again, laughing it off, recognizing that you want to get back into a more relaxed state anyway because you were getting a little bit too tight, perhaps, can be a very effective mode just to get back to your normal shot.
Yeah, what is also kind of interesting that when you're shooting at a field like that, there is an announcer who is saying the scores of your opponent and of yourself, of course. But my eyesight is just kind of poorly, so I have no idea what O is shooting unless I look at the screens. Or my coach tells me. And at this moment of time, the announcer said that O had an 8, but my coach was immediately like, no, it's a 9, just do not even think about it, instead of try to go for a little opportunity.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, a little bit accurate information.
That's something for me that helps. So also the last arrow of the last set, I could just shoot and try to dial in a little bit more.
Nice bow arm throw on that last shot.
Yeah. A lot of people ask me about those things, and they also like always say that I do that on purpose. But for me, it's just a reaction that just happens with tension and motion in going through the clicker.
Mm-hmm.
So as I pull back all the way, I just try to give over to my subconscious all the way. And I just trust completely on that my body just figures it out, what it needs to get the arrows as close to the middle as possible.
Yeah. All right, so this one's pretty neck and neck as well.
999.
So opportunity to tie with a 10 at the very least.
Yeah, these are just the fun bits. You always know that when you hit it, you'll get at least one set point. But as you can see, the flags moved the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I remember that error just as it was yesterday. I was aiming off left high 9 because when I aim off, I always aim off it just a little bit higher. And it landed exactly on the spot that I was aiming. And I was like, oh, dude, come on.
And it did look like a great, comfortable shot. You looked pretty happy with the execution.
Yeah, I shot it and I was like, yeah, it's good. But then I saw the arrow leave and I was like, no.
Dang it. And yeah, you had a much better group than O on that one, but came away without any set points, unfortunately. But one thing I wanted to point out, too, is this kind of battle of the wind is that both you archers are 680-plus level archers in the comm, and with just a little bit of wind, that average can drop to high 660s, 670s, kind of in there, depending on how things go. So it really is a lot of paying attention to all your markers for the wind and this little chess match a little bit of finding out everything you can about your shooting, about your opponent's shooting, where you need to aim to most reliably keep that group centered right around the X-ring.
Yeah, that's true. And definitely when you're shooting a qualification round where you can just rely on a previous shot. With shooting matches, that just doesn't go up. You shoot one arrow and you have to completely trust on where it goes and where it lands instead of just try to shoot good groups. And while shooting good groups, you get a lot of points. So it's always a different dynamic shooting matches instead of shooting a qualification round.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, or what are you thinking going into this fourth set here?
Well, I am 4-2 down. So going into a match like that, I'm always going to go full throttle. Like there's no remorse. I just have to do it. Because if I don't, I'm going to lose either way. So for me, that really helped going into a match like that. So you can see my first arrow was a 9.0 high because I just overpowered it way too much. And then I just move my side just a little bit so I can rely on those shots and just go full throttle to see if they will hit the middle. And I shot 2 times after that.
Okay, so yeah,
which does that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And again, depending on, we were talking about this, you can look at the box score and not have any real understanding of how the match is going back and forth as far as momentum, as far as comfortability of the archers. So to see both of you kind of have a little bit of a wobbly shot on that first one, or at least not as tight, and then both come back arrow for arrow on 10s, that shows that you're both getting a bit more dialed in, because I don't think you've both had an end at 29 yet. So I guess both archers by this point are kind of putting down their best stuff.
Yeah, I believe that as a match progress, you always get just a little bit more relaxed and try to do just a little bit, you're not trying to do any better, but you just feel a little bit more conscious about what you're doing.
All right, so now 5-3, just tied at end at 29. It's still do or die time. So is that the same mindset here?
It's exactly the same mindset. Just going in, looking at my face. It's game mode. You can see I feel pretty confident also with that shot. I also do not move my side at all because I just know that it was a good shot. And sometimes at 70 meters, good shots end up in the 9 instead of in the 10. So that's also something to keep in the back of your mind.
All right, so O sneaks one in there. But
yeah, for me, that was kind of difficult because he was shooting a lot of low arrows or just hitting lines. And I was shooting a nice group, but right high.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I'm kind of if O shoots 2 9s and I shoot a 10, we tie, and he's going to win it either way. Yeah,
definitely. When 28 to 29 is the average, and you start off with 2 9s, you're kind of working from behind. Good final shot right
Good
off
shot
the
to
X.
finish with.
Yeah. I shot a great shot, and I said to my coach, like, yeah, he just needs to shoot an 8 to have a chance.
Yeah.
Which normally just does not happen at this stage.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, unfortunate. 2 ties to finish, though, 4-6. Yeah, just a couple little groups moving around. It looked like there was only maybe 1 or 2 shots that, as far as execution, you might have wanted back. But then there were some shots there, too, about just wind judgment or just a little bit of drift here and there that we're losing a few points here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, looking back at a match like this, for me, there are no regrets. At a moment, like, when you're out there and you just try to do the best that you can, you just make a decision. And after I make a decision, I just go with it for 100%. So if I'm aiming off at a 9 and I shoot a 9, I'm at least happy with the way I did it instead of just, like I always call it, being a pussy. So I just, like, I really enjoy like setting my mind to something and just do it instead of doubting about it.
Yeah, just being in the zone, shooting real clean, and then after that, it's just, again, strategy, kind of chess match a little bit of who can get those arrows closer to the 10, a little bit better groups, a little bit better scores, and then get to that 6 set points first. But yeah, exciting match. I mean, definitely back and forth. Every end looked like it had, little swings and momentum. So unfortunate that you didn't make it through to the gold medal match, but you got to feel pretty good that you got a lot of control going into the bronze medal. Still a lot of hardware to come away with. And I would also add, too, I don't know when they changed this over, but normally they don't, in the past, they hadn't shot semifinal matches on the finals venue stage. So I imagine it's got to give all the archers, by the time they get through the semifinals to the medal matches, just a little more comfort and understanding of the venue and able to maybe have a little bit higher arrow averages in those last matches.
Yeah, definitely. It changed it in 2021, I believe, just after COVID, the first World Cup, we started with this format. And at first, I did not really like it, because when you're shooting matches at the normal venue and just rolling through the day, you feel really confident because you're winning, obviously. So for me, that's always a feeling that I just want to, like, I want to keep the momentum going. But then they changed it up to top 4 and starting all over again on Sunday. And there are 2 sides of the story, because there you're going to shoot 2 matches, you have some more experience on the field, and your second match probably going to be better. But if you shoot your first match, which did not feel good, or you do not have a good feeling about what you did, or your equipment is not at the right space, you have to go again. And sometimes that feels just a little bit frustrating. So there are 2 sides. Of course, when everything is going good, life is good and everything is beautiful, there's no problem at all. But there's also the other way around that it can go.
Yeah, I would definitely liken that to in team selection events, shooting round robins, because again, you get so used to, like, when you lose, you're kind of out. You can kind of reset in elimination matches, but with the round robins, and you keep having to shoot, and you keep having to, like, dig deep if you had a bad match or you lost by a little bit. Definitely a different feeling that I think most tournaments miss out on when there's not a lot of obviously you can still bounce back from arrow to arrow or end to end within a match, but to lose a match and then have to regroup and say, okay, like, we're resetting up. There's still more to get done here. That's an interesting part of most tournaments that I don't think we get to see.
Yeah, there's also a big part of mindset. So there are a few ways you can approach a day like this. Like, of course, you can go for the gold medal and only the gold medal. So if you lose the first match, you can just kind of give up in your head and shoot the match. Or you can also go for the best possible that you can achieve on a day like this. And for me, that was the goal this day. And after losing the first match, my mind was 100% at winning bronze. And that also kind of helped because I lost the match and I congratulated O with shooting good. But then I immediately turned to my coach and I was like, then we're going to get bronze. So it's also just a bit of a mindset thing, how you go into a match which is following up.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds exciting. Yeah. You want to, again, keep reframing these things in ways that are going to make you feel good, shoot good, compete well, and be at the very best you can be. And I think developing those, I guess, muscles, for lack of a better term, that reflexive muscle of how do I shape this into how I do my best, whether, it's mental reframing or just how you talk to people or the positivity or the relaxedness that you want to inject into your feeling or your shooting. That's really important, I think, for every archer to develop, but especially at an elite level, to be able to constantly be refocusing in a way that's going to allow them to have the best chance of success.
Yeah, I believe so as well.
So yeah, okay, so we're finished with the semifinal match.
We are now getting into the bronze medal match in Shanghai. So far, leading up to this point, Steve has had an absolute beast of a bracket. We've had some very tough matches. Close match against Oh Jin Hyek, losing in the semifinal to get to this point. But now, here he is shooting for bronze. We're going to get his behind-the-scenes thoughts on what got him to this point and arrow-by-arrow breakdown of this match. Conditions. Let's have Steve give us the conditions.
Well, the conditions at the field are kind of the same this whole day. The match that I shot before this, there was a slight headwind from right, so it's coming just a little bit towards you. But I was sitting in the athlete area waiting until the other semifinal was done, and I was looking at the screens and I was trying to get more information about what the flags were doing and where the arrows were landing. And in the athlete area, I just made the call with my coach just to aim everything at the middle and shoot as good as I can instead of aiming off and trying to get them in.
Okay, because you had mentioned earlier in the matches leading up to this point, you had actually clutched some of your wins because of making some really timely readings of the wind and catching some of that information. The match against O, maybe that was not working in your favor as much, so now you've made a strategy change in the finals match to let's just aim for the middle and go 100% and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Because also the finals field is different than the normal venue.
Yeah.
The normal venue is a big stadium, which like the wind is swirling around the whole day, and it's different at every target. But here it's all open, and it was not blowing that much. Of course, there was some wind, and sometimes you need to take care of that. But at the time in this day, like definitely for this competition, the wind was kind of still, and I felt at this point that I could win more with shooting as good as I can instead of like getting my head around where to aim.
Okay.
All right, so you got some experience there. You have the time to collect more info, watch other shooters go through their matches, come down a little bit from the higher intensity of the first match, talk to your coach, talk to your teammates maybe about what they're seeing. And just for, I guess, viewers at home too, I think that that's something that I wasn't really, I think it makes sense, but I was surprised at my first couple World Cups, the amount of like strategizing that the team is pulling together about how is the finals venue like, where's the wind, where are people aiming their first arrow, all these things to just get you. I mean, 1 or 2 points on the first end can set a momentum tone and maybe carry you through an extra set point or two. But yeah, a lot of everybody trying to figure it out and get dialed in.
Yeah, definitely. And also like for example, the Lee, who I'm going to shoot against, he was shooting at the practice field. He was shooting all his arrows low, like all 9.5 low. And he had to shoot, I believe, mixed team and team as well that day. So when you see somebody doing something like that, it's always for a reason. And for me, I was just keeping my eye on him, what he was doing, and I also kept my eye on him, what he did in his semifinal. And that also kind of helped with making a decision on where to aim.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, you're going into it feeling good. And one thing that I think is unique about this match that maybe we don't always get to see is you're shooting against the archer in their home country.
Yeah,
So
that's fun.
describe to me how that feeling went. I know that depending on the country, it could be a very different vibe, but I'm pretty sure that every time you're going to face that, you're going to be ready for a much more energized crowd. They're going to be much more prone to cheer really loudly and try to help this archer along. And you know they're going to be a little harder on you than maybe they normally would. So how does that or how do you feel about that, or how does that influence your mentality?
Well, over the years, I've been into situations where the crowd was really unfriendly and they were booing at me and cheering for the other guy. But here in China, that was not the case at all. They were just really like sportive, and they just, of course, they wanted him to win, but they also enjoyed seeing me shooting good. So the cheering was not that big of a difference, but definitely while standing there and waiting to shoot the match, you can feel that that the countries that I'm friends with or my teammates or whatever, they just try to be as vocal as they can, just a little bit to overpower the Chinese.
Yeah. And just I think one of my experiences it's definitely how you look at it. I think it can be very exciting to have that energy level raised and then be shooting against archers from their home country. I was in a match in Mexico once, and it was particularly challenging environment from the audience perspective, but it was also exciting because you're like, I'm not like worried about anything. Like I'm excited to like try and take it to these guys in a team match. It was on their home turf and let them be nervous about impressing their crowd. Like I'm gonna almost raise my level a little bit for the excitement of that particular situation. So
Yeah, I also feel, at least for myself, I also kind of thrive on the atmosphere. You can feel all the people that they are excited, and I'm definitely a person that feels a lot, and for me that also helps with building a little bit of a momentum and having some positive energy.
nice. Okay. Yeah. So tapping into that good energy in whatever form it is, even though you could look at this as like an uphill battle, but in reality, it just heightens the stakes a little bit, makes it more fun. So yeah, so a little bit of a unique situation. You don't always get that. There's a lot of great archers trying to get to these finals in a World Cup, but you get a chance now to shoot against Li Zongwan from China, and yeah, let's get it started.
Yeah, so standing there again, it's always a little bit strange, a little bit awkward. You're getting introduced to the crowd, and of course there are a lot of familiar and definitely friends on the stands, but it's also just like something to get over with, and I'll always enjoy to just get started.
Nice, and you both are warmed up. You both had a match. I presume you both are pretty focused, if not intensely focused, now on trying to take home a final win and get this bronze medal. Are you leading off this match?
Yes, I'm leading off. He was higher ranked, but he chose to like get me to get things started off. I'm not exactly sure why, because normally people always start off when they are higher ranked to put some pressure on the opponent.
Yeah,
But he chose for it to let me do it.
sure.
And for me, I was like, yeah, sure, I can put some pressure on you.
Yeah, a little bit of gamesmanship perhaps with the wind, but I think in archery it seems like because once you forfeit that ability to go first, um, I mean you have to have that for any ties throughout the rest of the match, including going into a shoot off arrow. So it seems like in general that's not the preferred strategy.
Yeah, but to be honest, I do not really mind shooting second. Also, not in a shoot off. When somebody shoots a good 10, like of course, the chances are low that you shoot a better 10, but at least it's just a do or die situation, and you just go with the flow and see how good you can do.
So great 2 10s for you to start off, and leaked one just out. But we saw also Lee shoot a little high, and you had mentioned on the practice range that he was shooting his arrows a little low. So they must have had some sort of calculation there with their potential locations.
Wow, and with a 10 on the last arrow to bring it to a tie too.
Yeah, that also. Something that you can see on this match, which is different than the previous match, at least from my perspective, that my tempo and speed has been going up with at least a second or maybe even two. There's just so much less doubt. I feel way more confident being there. I know what to do. I just like aim on, pull through, get it done.
Nice. Yeah.
Just fully in a more of an attack mindset. There's no questioning. There's no decision making. It's just like you said earlier, pedal to the metal. Just go for it. No hesitating.
No, not at all. And I was watching his semifinal, and he was shooting really good against Marcus, but at the end he kind of slowed down a little and shot some more 9s and 8s. And of course, it's never a certain thing that will happen again, but it's usually a pattern that you can see on different people at least. And for me, that was also something that I kept in my mind after both starting with a 29. I was like, yeah, as long as I can just keep on doing this and put on the pressure on him, maybe he will let down a little.
Definitely not on these first 2 shots, though. No one's letting down.
No,
Absolutely
not at all.
battling it out.
Yeah. That's also just a shot that I was mentioning. You can just see me pulling back and just going for it. I think I was not at full draw for more than 2 seconds.
Okay, his
and
first
now
leak
opening
run.
from Lee.
Yeah, this is always a really nice feeling. You got to play at 2 points, so hitting a 9 is enough. And that also helps with shooting.
But we'll take the dead center X anyway, because why not? Time to put a 30 on the board. So,
Yeah.
so first 30 on the finals field was this 30 right here for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you've got to be,
And-
I'm guessing, feeling pretty warmed up and ready to go the rest of this match after that.
Yeah, I was just like, at this point of time, I was thinking back on the matches that I've shot against Brady and against Mette. It felt pretty much the same. I was having the same strategy, at least technically wise. And that for me, that just I reference back to those matches where I was able to at least shoot good for the whole day. And that also gave me a lot of confidence going into the next few rounds, knowing that I can do this as long as I have to.
Nice. Yeah. And like you said, you saw maybe a little bit of weaknesses in his first match. And again, there's no guarantee that'll happen again. But as a competitor, you're looking for whatever cracks are available. And obviously not wanting to let up on any particular arrow, but trying to get in the mindset that you're going to close out and finish and keep that mindset strong, even if the opponent starts to slow down a little.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe that there's just a little misunderstanding that a lot of people, and definitely coaches, they're always saying that you're shooting against yourself and you just need to be the best version of yourself. But I truly believe that you just shoot against your opponent. For me, it doesn't matter if he shoots a 26 or a 28. As long as I shoot 1 point more, I got 2 set points, and that just helps me getting faster to 6-0, and I'm happy with that.
Sure. Well, that's a great group. I mean, only one 9.8 out there. I would also add to that mentality, too, that you were describing of, I feel like it also allows you to be a little less hard on yourself sometimes. If you're always comparing yourself to just what you could do, then it doesn't give you any room to, win if you're not shooting your best and still feel pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. This shot, I remember really good. You can see my face, and I was like, that should have been gone in. And that's also a fun part, just to like having your head into trying to shoot as good as you can, and even criticize yourself at shooting a 9.9.
Yeah. All right, so critical arrow and an X.
An X. Wow.
So that's exciting now. He's back on. He had one little stumble last end, pretty good this end. Now you guys matched arrow for arrow, and he can't catch a break now. He's the one who's a little behind after still shooting pretty well.
Yeah, he's been shooting really good. Definitely at this point in a match, you always trying just to keep your head into the game instead of thinking about the medal. Yeah, I laughed my face there.
Hey, it's exciting, and I think it shows that you're in the zone and you're enjoying what you're doing, and you're 100% kind of locked into shooting and competing the way you want. And I think it's good for the crowd to see more into the process, because I think it teaches them more, it gets them more understanding of the stakes and the process to shoot as well as you guys are doing.
Yeah, and the fun thing is that also it's almost the same mentality as being 4-2 behind. At this point, it's also just going full throttle and see how fast you can close the match, instead of trying to wait until your opponent makes some mistakes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a little momentum builder.
4-2 up is almost the same as being 4-2 down.
Yeah, you guys have got your chance to kind of jockey a little bit, and now you want to close some stuff out. Ooh, just out. Okay.
That's like the first arrow that's to the left at all, this end, right?
Yeah, that's true. But the good thing for me is that I just cannot see it, and my coach was like, yeah, it's just out on the left, and I was like, yeah, fine. So that also helps with keeping your head into an easy space.
Yeah, just kind of moving on. All right,
great.
Another high 10.
For me, something that stands out this match is that almost all my arrows are high. I wasn't really noticing at the time, but I don't know why, but it kind of stands out.
There was a big wobble on that last shot.
Yeah, a little flinch before getting through the clicker. He still pulled it off pretty well, but again, not a lot of room to work with.
And pulled off the 10 for the win. How did that feel?
That just felt amazing. Of course, I can hear the announcer saying that Lee had a 9, and I knew that I needed to shoot a 10 to win. And if I shot a 9, I just split the set again. So there's not a lot at stake, but there is. It kind of feels kind of weird.
Yeah, so, you don't want to give away anything when you have opportunities, because I mean, obviously you're still in it, but if you did tie and go to a 5-3 situation, you're still progressing. But yeah, if you are feeling good and keeping consistent, then you don't want to give your opponent any chance to kind of get back into things if you can end it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But for me, always the best approach of shooting a 10 is just like going 100% for it. And that's something which is on my mind at a moment like this. Like there's no doubt, there's nothing. For me, it's just aiming on and going for it. And if I miss, I miss. And if I hit it, I'll be a happy fella.
Yeah, yeah. So nice. So how would you? So obviously exciting to close out with a win, to get on the podium, to get a bronze medal, because it been a while since your last World Cup medal or like international outdoor medal.
A World Cup medal, yeah.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this year, I took silver at a Grand Prix, but last year outdoor I had some difficulties, so that. Yeah, it kind of hurt. I knew that I could do it, but getting the confirmation that I'm still in it and that I'm still able to be at a high level just really helps with my confidence.
Yeah, just really exciting, and the validation, the excitement, the getting the chance to shoot in front of a finals venue again at a premier event. And like you said, it's kind of a long journey that you felt you probably had been building since last year or the end of last year into the indoor season and then taking it to the outdoor season. So a lot of behind the scenes that people are probably not aware of, but seeing the results and seeing the putting yourself in good positions.
The harsh thing is that for me, the last few indoor years always has been good. I've always been medaling indoor, but at least last year, outdoors I have not medaled once or wasn't in a position to shoot for a medal or whatsoever. So it kind of felt like a really really bad season. But I also have to be honest that it was a first for me. Ever since I've been on the scene, I'm really lucky that every year I came home with a few medals. So that's also something that you get kind of used of instead of really see the value of it. So a year like last year really hurts, and of course you do not want that, but it also reevaluates a little bit more of what archery is all about, and it also gives a little bit more value of a bronze medal.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary. Any other thoughts or questions, Josh, for kind of what you saw? Or
I guess the only thing I always like to ask of the students that I coach and would try to ask myself after every competition is I'm curious, do you have any lessons or takeaways that you are going to implement moving forward from this competition in Shanghai?
Well, there is a thing that I found in my technique where I can rely on something in my front shoulder that I can feel really good when I'm on a lot of pressure. And that's something that like I've been feeling that entire competition, at least in the matches. So I try to replicate that now at training and try to focus on that part just a little bit more to see if I can expand the amount of usage of it.
Okay, so a little technical cue that's going to hopefully put you up at an even better position at the next World Cup.
I hope so, yeah. But like I've been saying for the past few years, the level is going up, and I always rephrase it as like at first you start to running a marathon with the qualification, but then you have to go into sprints, and with the sprints it can be done really fast. So you never know.
yeah, well, very exciting for us. We were following it and very excited to catch up with you after the fact for this Shanghai World Cup and hear your thoughts about how the whole competition went, the elimination matches leading up to this were, and then kind of what you're feeling and thinking and experiencing in the semifinal and bronze medal match. So very exciting for us. So thanks for joining us. And
for me, it was really enjoyable to see the match again. I never really look back at matches, but you just kind of relive it again. And I feel pretty pumped after watching the bronze medal match again. So I hope it was very useful for all of you guys. And if there are any questions, feel free to ask.
So, Steve, thank you very much for coming on with us and sharing all of that. We appreciate your time a lot, and hopefully this is entertaining and helps other people that watch it.
And we hope you guys join us again next time for hopefully Steve medaling again and future World Cups.